The wind howled through the crooked pines lining the edge of Ridgewood County, slicing through the night like a blade. In the tiny town of Granite Hollow, population 712, few souls stirred after 9 p.m., and even fewer braved the northern roads on nights like this. The moon was a pale smear behind storm clouds, and the only source of light came from the occasional flicker of distant porch lamps and the high beams of Nathan Carter's rusted Ford truck. Nathan squinted into the dark as he made his way back home, his fingers drumming on the steering wheel in rhythm with the low country song on the radio. The cracked leather of his seat groaned beneath him, but Nathan hardly noticed. His mind was elsewhere, on bills unpaid, on his broken fence, and on his 8-year-old daughter sleeping back home in the little farmhouse they'd rebuilt together one board at a time. Nathan had lived a lifetime in his 38 years. A veteran, a widower, a full-time mechanic, and most proudly, a single father, he carried the weight of grief and duty with quiet resolve. His wife, Melanie, had passed away 5 years ago in a car crash that shattered their world and left him raising a toddler on his own. There were days when the pain still caught him off guard, like stepping on a shard of glass he thought he'd already swept away. But his daughter, Lucy, had given him reason to fight on. She was the light that cracked through his darkness, a spirited girl with a wild imagination and a heart full of laughter. As the truck turned the bend near Hollow Creek Bridge, Nathan instinctively slowed down. Something glinted up ahead, a figure on the roadside, hunched beneath the downpour. No, 2 figures. A woman, soaked to the bone, was holding a child who couldn't have been more than 5 or 6. She waved frantically, her free hand trembling in the storm. Nathan's heart kicked. It wasn't often you saw strangers out here, much less a woman and child in the dead of night. He pulled over. "Hey!" Nathan called out, lowering the window slightly, letting rain whip inside. "You all right?" The woman stepped forward, shielding her son with her own body. Her face was bruised, one eye nearly swollen shut, and her lip cracked and bleeding. Her voice cracked as she said, "Please, we need help. I don't have anywhere else to go." Nathan opened the passenger side door and jumped out, grabbing the emergency blanket from behind his seat. The child was shivering violently, his small fingers gripping a tattered stuffed lion. Nathan wrapped the blanket around both of them and guided them toward the warmth of the truck. "I'm Nathan," he said calmly, trying to offer her some sense of safety. "You're safe now. Let's get you both dry." The woman nodded mutely, her eyes scanning the dark road behind them before she climbed in. The child didn't speak but curled into his mother's side. As Nathan turned the heat up, the woman finally whispered, "My name's Emily. This is Noah." Nathan glanced at the boy in the rearview mirror. His face was pale, frightened, and his large eyes looked too mature for his age, like someone who'd already seen too much. Nathan knew that look. He'd worn it himself once. The drive home was quiet. Nathan didn't push for answers, and Emily didn't offer any. By the time they reached the farmhouse, Lucy was already asleep in her tiny room, her favorite stuffed rabbit tucked beneath her chin. Nathan helped Emily and Noah inside, handed her a towel, and set a mug of warm tea on the kitchen table. "You've got bruises," he said gently once she was seated. "Do you need a doctor?" Emily shook her head. "I'll be all right. We just needed to get away." "From who?" Nathan asked, his voice calm but serious. Emily hesitated, clutching the tea like a lifeline. "My in-laws. They tried to take my son. I couldn't let them. Not after everything they did." Nathan leaned against the kitchen counter, crossing his arms. "Start from the beginning." And so she did. Her name was Emily Lansing, at least it had been before she dropped the last name and fled the wealthy estate that had imprisoned her since her husband's death. She had married into one of the richest families in the state, the Lansing family, owners of Lansing Holdings, a multinational corporation. Victor Lansing, her late husband, had been the black sheep, rebellious, unpredictable, and the only son of Gerald and Cynthia Lansing, two people who believed wealth equated to power and control. They had hated Emily from the beginning, seeing her as beneath them, a distraction, a threat to their empire. When Victor died in a plane crash 3 years ago, the Lansings became obsessed with reclaiming their legacy, through Noah. Emily's voice broke as she told Nathan about the custody battle, about how the Lansings had tried to declare her an unfit mother, hiring private investigators to dig up dirt that didn't exist. When that failed, they turned to more direct methods: harassment, veiled threats, financial sabotage. Then came the restraining orders, the staged, domestic incidents she'd been blamed for. The legal system, swayed by power and influence, turned a blind eye to her pleas. "I went to court with every document, every piece of proof I had," she said, tears welling in her eyes. But they had better lawyers. Judges that owed them favors. They tried to take Noah, and when I resisted, they sent someone to scare me into submission. Nathan didn't need more details to fill in the blanks. He could see the fear etched into her face. "They're going to keep looking," she added quietly. "They won't stop until they have him." Nathan looked at the boy, now asleep on the couch beside Lucy's pink knitted blanket. He seemed so small. So innocent. "Then you'll stay here," Nathan said. Emily's eyes widened. "What? You and Noah? Stay here until you figure out your next move?" "I can't ask that of you." "You didn't ask. I offered. And my daughter would probably string me up if I turned away someone with a kid." Emily blinked at him, and for the first time that night, she smiled. Over the next few days, Nathan's quiet farmhouse took on new life. Emily, determined not to be a burden, helped with everything: cooking, laundry, even fixing the old garden gate. Noah followed Lucy everywhere, and Nathan noticed the first time the boy laughed, a high, bubbling sound that filled the living room as Lucy spun him in circles pretending they were on the moon. Emily heard it too and had to turn away to hide her tears. They began to form a rhythm. In the mornings, Nathan made breakfast while Emily packed school lunches. Noah sat beside Lucy at the table, drawing superheroes and dragons. At night, they all gathered by the fire to read or play board games. Nathan hadn't realized how empty the house had felt until it wasn't anymore. One evening, while Lucy was helping Noah with his ABCs, Nathan and Emily sat outside on the porch, watching fireflies blink across the fields. Emily sipped her tea, her fingers wrapped tightly around the mug. "They'll find us eventually," she said softly. Nathan nodded. "Then we make sure you're ready when they do." Emily looked at him, startled. "What does that mean?" "It means I've dealt with people like them before. They use fear like a weapon. But you've got more strength than you think. You don't even know me. I know enough. You ran with nothing but your son and the clothes on your back. That's not weakness. That's love." She looked down, her voice trembling. "I just want him to be safe. I don't care about money. About legacies. I just want Noah to be free." Nathan reached over and gently placed his hand over hers. "Then he will be. You're not alone anymore." 1 week later, Nathan received an unexpected visitor. Sheriff Riggins, a grizzled man with a deep drawl and eyes like a hawk, showed up in a black cruiser and stepped onto Nathan's porch. Nathan met him with a wary nod. "Evenin', Nate," the sheriff said, peering past him. "Got a call from someone big in the city. Said a woman and her son went missing from their estate. Claimed she kidnapped the boy." "She's his mother," Nathan said flatly. "I figured as much. That's why I came to you first. Thought maybe you'd seen anything strange." Nathan didn't flinch. "Nope. Quiet as usual." The sheriff gave him a long look, then tipped his hat. "You know I'm not one to tattle. But they'll send someone else if I don't report back soon. Someone with a badge and a warrant." I understand. As the cruiser rolled away, Emily stepped onto the porch behind him. She had heard everything. They found us, she whispered. Nathan turned to her. Then we fight back. In the weeks that followed, Nathan called in every favor he had. He hired a friend from the city, a sharp young attorney who specialized in family law and loved underdog stories. Emily began to document everything, creating a timeline of abuse, corruption, and intimidation. The local paper ran a human interest piece, carefully worded, about a widow's fight to protect her son from powerful people. Public opinion began to shift. And Noah? Noah blossomed. He smiled more. Laughed louder. He no longer flinched at loud sounds or shadows in the hallway. With Lucy's help, he started talking again, telling stories of space dinosaurs and pirate robots. He began to feel like a kid. One crisp morning, Emily stepped into the kitchen with a letter in her hand, tears streaming down her face. Nathan jumped to his feet. What is it? She handed it to him. A court notice, granting her full custody. They dropped the case, she said, breathless. After the article, after everything we submitted, they backed down. They're out. Nathan exhaled hard, his chest tightening with emotion. Lucy ran in and threw her arms around Noah, who giggled and hugged her back. Emily looked at Nathan through tears. We're free. He smiled, his heart full. You always were.